Welcome to Extraordinary Creatives. I'm Kerry Hand, 35 years as a gallerist, curator and institutional director, now coaching artists and creative leaders to build creative lives that reward them. 2 episodes a week on audio and video, an honest conversation with an extraordinary creative about their work and their life, and a shorter deep dive into the mindset and strategy questions creative people actually face. Thanks for being here. Let's get into it. Most of you who take your first public art commission lose money on it. Not necessarily because the budget was bad, but because nobody told you that a public commission is not just a bigger version of a private one. It's a different job with a completely different shape, and the parts of the work that don't appear in the brief, the procurement process, the contract clauses, the maintenance liabilities, the stakeholder hours, are the parts that quietly eat at your fee. By the time you realise what you've signed up for, 18 months have gone, with 3 more years to go and no honest way out. So here's what I want to give you today. The 6 things that genuinely change when you step from a private commission into a public one. The hidden costs inside the budget that almost no commissioner spells out and that you have to know to ask about. And the support structure that you need around you before you accept the commission, not after, because by then it's too late. This is for artists who have been invited to apply for their first public art commission, and for artists already inside one who can feel the ground shifting and haven't been able to name what's actually happening. I'm Kerry Hand, and this is Extraordinary Creatives. 35 years in the contemporary art world as a gallerist, a curator and institutional director, now coaching artists and creative leaders worldwide. This episode is part 8 of a 9-part series on commissions. If you haven't followed the podcast yet, hit follow so you don't miss an episode. Last week we covered what public art is, the 5 reasons it gets commissioned, and the 6 roles an artist might play inside a public art commission. If you haven't heard that one, it sets the foundation for today, and I'd start there. Today, the practical realities. 6 things change when you step into a public art commission, and an artist who walks in without understanding them gets crushed by them. Time horizons, stakeholder complexity, procurement processes, budgets, maintenance and ownership, insurance and contracts. Let me walk you through each one so you know exactly what you're walking into. Firstly, time horizons. Permanent public art is designed to last. A serious public commission will be expected to last around 25 years at minimum, often 50, sometimes 100 or more. That changes everything about your material decisions. Bronze, stone, steel, they're durable but resource intensive. Lower cost materials may be more sustainable but might not survive 25 years of weather. So you're now making decisions whose consequences you might not be alive to see. That's a different kind of authorship. It demands a different kind of humility, and it's one of the things that makes public art genuinely meaningful work. Temporary commissions are different. They're designed to last less than 5 years, often much less. Semi-permanent commissions have a lifespan of up to 10 years often. Each of these 3 categories has different material logic, different budget logic, and different maintenance implications. The commission brief should tell you which category you're working in. If it doesn't, ask. And one more thing about time horizons. Public art commissions routinely take 2 to 5 years from first conversation to installation. Some take a decade. If your practice needs cycles that complete in months, public art will be slow torture. If you have the temperament for long arcs, you might be a natural. Next up is stakeholder complexity. A private commission has 1 client, maybe 2. A public commission can involve a developer, a local authority planning department, a steering group, a funding body, community representatives, local politicians, design teams, fabricators, engineers, planners, lawyers, and the public itself. Every one of those parties has a perspective. Every one of those parties needs managing. The artists who thrive in public art are not necessarily the ones with the strongest practice. They're the ones who can hold the integrity of their work through a multi-stakeholder process without being slowly compromised into something neither they nor the original brief recognise. This is a learnable skill, but it is a skill, not a natural state. Early public art commissions often fail at this stage, not because the artist's work was weak, but because the artist wasn't prepared for how relentless the stakeholder conversation could be. If you're moving into public art, this is the capacity you'll need to build, not just in yourself, in the people around you. A producer, a curator, a consultant who sits between you and the stakeholders and protects you. Next up is procurement and process. Public commissions are commissioned through formal processes. There are broadly three. Open call. The commission is advertised publicly. Artists submit expressions of interest, CVs, images of recent work. A shortlist is drawn. Shortlisted artists may be invited to develop a proposal, usually for a small honorarium. This is good for discovering new artists. It's lengthy for applicants and there's no guarantee of selection. Invited competition. A small number of artists drawn from a long list are invited to develop and submit proposals. A fee is paid for the proposal work. More secure for the artist, but many established artists still decline because the fees rarely reward the time spent and the brief might not align with their practice. Next is direct invitation. An artist is approached directly, often through the recommendation of a curator or consultant. A fee is paid for research and design. This is the fastest and most efficient, but it exposes the commissioner to criticism for lack of competition, and some procurement policies don't allow it at all. Each of those routes has different demands on your time. Knowing which process you've been invited into and what is genuinely being asked of you at that stage is critical. A common trap is artists doing weeks of unpaid concept work for an early stage shortlist when only sketches and a few lines of text were required. Read the brief, do what the brief asks, no more, no less. Next up is budgets. Public commission budgets sound large and often aren't by the time you have to account for everything they have to cover. Here's what a serious public commission budget needs to cover. Brace yourself. The artist selection and shortlisting costs, the artist design fees, structural design and professional certification, materials and fabrication, including full-scale samples and associated testing, the artist travel and expenses, safety and access audits, community outreach event and activities costs, professional liability insurance, public liability insurance, installation including site preparation, electricity, landscaping, labour, transport and security, including insurance of artwork in transit, professional fees, legal costs, consultation costs, publicity and public launch event costs, recording and evaluation of the project, handover documents, maintenance plans, as-built drawings, interpretation panel or plaque, future maintenance costs, tax where relevant, and contingency. That's the list. Every single line is a real cost that has to be met. The headline figure you see in the brief might be a quarter of what actually reaches you in net fee, once all of those lines have been covered. Reading a public art budget properly is a skill, and it's a skill you build by doing it badly the first time and learning fast, or of course, listening to this and getting some help. The first time you price a public commission, show the budget breakdown to someone experienced before you submit. Don't do this alone. Maintenance and ownership. Once your work is installed, who owns it? Who maintains it? Who's responsible if it deteriorates, gets damaged or becomes unsafe? These are serious legal and practical questions that are decided in your contract, not after the work goes up. A maintenance plan should be prepared as part of the commission. It should include the site location and description, the dimensions and photographic documentation, material specs and installation details, cleaning recommendations and inspection schedule. repair and maintenance schedules, de-installation instructions, contact details for the artist, the fabricator and the commissioner. After the agreed maintenance period, ownership of public artworks placed in public space often defaults to the commissioning body or the site owner, so please make sure the handover is explicit in the contract. Permanent public art that's not maintained becomes a problem, sometimes a reputational problem for the artist. So insurance and contracts is really crucial. You'll need public liability insurance, often at significant levels of cover. Depending on your role, you may need professional indemnity insurance. If your work involves fabrication, installation, electrical components, or anything the public can touch or sit on, the liability calculations change. This is an area where you absolutely need professional advice, not just guesswork. Insurance for a single public commission can run into thousands, and this cost needs to be in the budget you negotiated, not absorbed from your fee. And every public commission should be governed by a contract, a bespoke contract drawn up with legal advice. For permanent commissions, a two-stage contract is often recommended. The first stage covers detailed design development. The second stage, signed only after the design is approved, covers production and installation. This structure protects you if the project doesn't progress from concept to build, because you don't want to be the artist who's done 6 months of detailed fabrication planning for a commission that then gets cancelled at a political level. Contracts should cover all of the following: definition of all involved parties, so details of the commission and the brief, responsibilities of the commissioner and the artist, copyright, reproduction rights, credits and the artist's moral rights, delivery, installation and insurance requirements, fees, payment schedule and milestones, ownership and adoption of the artwork, risks of loss or damage, maintenance responsibilities, warranties and repair terms, relocation of the artwork if this may become necessary, decommissioning, termination of agreement and disputes procedure, schedule of work, that's how long is it going to be taking place over, and the commissioner should agree in writing not to intentionally alter, modify or destroy the artwork or consent to others doing so without consulting the artist. This is a lot, I know, and it's one of the reasons that artists working at this scale don't do it alone. So you need to consider what your support structure is. So let me leave you with something important. Artists working at the scale of major public commissions should not manage this alone. They have producers, consultants, fabricators, engineers, studio managers, lawyers, sometimes agents. The artist is the author, but the support structures make the authorship possible. If you're moving into public art, you're not just growing your practice, you're growing the infrastructure around your practice. And the infrastructure costs money, which is one of the reasons public art fees need to be higher than private commission fees, even before the complexity of the work itself is considered. You're paying for a support team, not just your own time. Artists like Alex Chinnock, who was on the podcast, whose large-scale public sculptures internationally involve multi-year processes and substantial stakeholder management. Or another podcast guest, Shazad Darwood, whose ambitious research-led commissions for biennials and major public projects sit at the most complex end of what a commission can be. They have this infrastructure around them. It's part of the reason they can operate at that scale. You won't build that infrastructure in one commission. You'll build it across years. So start thinking now. Start small. Maybe before next week, 2 pieces of homework for you. Number 1, look at the next public art opportunity you see advertised and read the brief closely. Try to identify which of the 5 rationales is it for, and which of the 6 roles is the artist being asked to play. You can check back on previous episodes if you want a refresher on that. Is it temporary, semi-permanent or permanent? What's the real budget once you factor in all the line items that I listed today? Do this as a desk exercise, whether or not you intend to apply. Number 2, Identify one producer, curator or a consultant in your region who programmes public art. Follow their work, note who they commission and why, and over the next year build a quiet picture of who these people are and what they're looking for. Your first public art commission often comes through a relationship that began with quiet attention. Next week, in episode 9, the final episode of the series, we're tackling the hardest questions in public art: co-creation with communities and how to do it properly rather than tokenistically. Contemporary memorialisation, which is one of the most politically charged conversations in art right now, we'll touch on. Sustainability and circular practice, and the political dimension of the public realm, which no artist can now avoid engaging with. We're also going to close out the whole 9-part series with the filters and the final truth that will pull the entire arc together. So if you don't want to miss it, hit follow or subscribe now so it lands in your feed automatically. And if this episode has been useful, please share it with one other artist. And for a text version of today's teaching, plus new practical guidance every week, you can subscribe to Beat the Block at kerryhand.com/subscribe, link in the show notes. Drop me a message, tell me which of these areas today felt like the biggest gap in your own prep. Time horizons, stakeholders, procurement, budgets, maintenance, insurance and contracts. I read everything. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week for the final episode. Thank you for spending this time with me. If something in this episode landed for you, please share it with one person who needs to hear it. Come and find me on Instagram at kerryhand, that's CERIHAND, and join thousands of creatives reading my weekly newsletter at kerryhand.com/subscribe for practical advice you can use this week straight to your inbox every Friday. Until then, keep making the work that only you can make.